And first of all, let me say good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you happen to be listening from. I'd like to start first by talking a little bit about San Jacinto College. And as you can see on this first slide, we're an established community college just south of Houston with the surrounding businesses that focus on industrial, petrochemical, maritime, and healthcare, just to name a few. We have NASA just down the road as well. So we have a mix of both technical and vocational certificate and two-year programs, along with the traditional academic programs that are both standalone and gateways to transfer to a university. We're accredited by the Southern Association of Colleges, and we have about 30,000 students on 3 main campuses. Next slide, please. So let's start with the problem statement. When we started this, we were running on Exchange 2007. We had approximately 7-year-old hardware. Essentially, both are at end of life. So we started by investigating an upgrade, like many of you, to Exchange 2013, wanting to initially thinking about keeping it on-prem. But two considerations really became apparent early on. One was that the industry direction was moving toward cloud services, software as a service. And in email in particular, we had reached out to Gartner, and Gartner's research supported email as an SAS service. The other thing that became apparent pretty quickly was if we were going to upgrade to Exchange 2013, that the cost of the upgrade, if we were going to do it on-prem, it was going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 250 upward to maybe 400,000 for both servers and storage. So those two considerations were really what were on our mind at the time, and we started looking at what were the real pros and cons, if we were to go to a cloud solution. And the first thing we thought about was, well, obviously we have this technology refresh cost avoidance that we have as a result. We certainly get disaster recovery. It's very much inherent in that solution because, as you know, Microsoft has data centers all over the country and globally, which then, of course, therefore means better business continuity for us and our customers. If you happen to be in Texas, there was actually a recommendation from the Texas Higher Education Board, a report they did on higher education cost efficiencies back in 2012. That was a recommendation for moving to more cloud-based systems. We also asked around to see, well, who else has done this, and we found that there were a number of agencies that already made the move, and that was for us evidence that the maturity of the service was really there for us because we saw numerous EDUs that had made the switch, and we did reference calls to many of them. The other thing that we saw as a pro with moving to Office 365 was the frequency and regularity of the enhancements. For our customers, they had not really seen an upgrade in 7 years. There were no feature set upgrades really. It was pretty much exactly what they had seen for a very long time. Another fact with Office 365, they've made available 50 gig mailbox space per user, which we couldn't touch that internally. For us to size an environment like that and keep it on-prem with Exchange 2013 would have been enormous. And of course, the biggest pro overall was, hey, it's free, right? And there's some service levels around that. Obviously, if you're like me, you're a director of infrastructure, or you manage infrastructure, or you're a CIO. One of the cons that you look at is, well, you've got this loss of control, right? And that was certainly a bit uneasy for us at first because for so many years we had been used to managing an Exchange environment, all that went with it. But I will tell you, while that was uneasy at first, it was honestly followed by a bit of euphoria a few months later when we found that we weren't dealing with Exchange issues and patching and all that goes with it. Next slide, please. So why Oculus? So once we decided to move to the cloud, we really had several options, deployment options. the obvious one was we could do it ourselves. We could attempt to do it ourselves, but we really had limited staff expertise in migration to cloud services, and especially Office 365. Or we could identify a partner, and I'm sure, like many of you, we're getting emails almost daily from vendors out there that say, "Hey, this is exactly what we do. Come talk to us." But for us, it was it quickly came to decide that we really did need a partner, someone to contract this to with expertise in the area. And when you think about the kind of work it really is, it's a one-time effort, and one-time efforts tend to be good fits for contracting, since we didn't need to retain a wealth of knowledge, afterward. As far as Oculus, actually our CIO was the one that first sent me one of their emails, and he knew that we were evaluating vendors at the time, and frankly, we had already seen quotes from other vendors that were nearly 3 times the cost of the Oculus plan. Of course, my first reaction, being very skeptical, was, this looks too good to be true. But in doing due diligence, we contacted Oculus and we did a detailed statement of work. And for me, it was making sure that all of the things that we needed to do fell within the scope of services that was provided in their email. And so, honestly, I was skeptical about the process. But once we confirmed the coverage, with reference calls, and obviously Oculus has done this with several other customers, and for us it just made sense to use Oculus. And the other thing is that we're really in a time crunch to get this done. Like many of you, we talked about it, we wanted to do it, but then finally when the approvals came to do it, we found that we really didn't have much time left to do this, and we needed someone who was nimble and flexible to our needs, and for us Oculus worked out. Next slide, please. So let's talk about the scope of work. So our deployment used what I call a live migration approach, which basically was we seeded the Office 365 environment initially, and then did a brief cutover period afterward to upload those changes, the deltas, contacts, calendars. And by doing it that way, we minimize the outage time or the migration time. And frankly, when we talk to other vendors, and I don't know if this is because they really weren't up to speed on this yet, but many of the other vendors never mentioned the live migration approach. And that was critical for us, because early on we looked at this and we thought, well, because of the time it may take to migrate large mailboxes, we may have to do this in really small groups of people, stretching it out for many, many months. And because of the live migration approach, we were able to move over 4,000 accounts in a weekend. Now keep in mind, many of those accounts, we seeded them initially, and so we were only looking at the delta, but that was a big thing for us. In terms of how things worked out, we had over 4,200 accounts that were targeted for migration. And then over Memorial Weekend, we successfully completed over 4,145 of those. So we had a 97.25 completion rate by the time our staff came back. And that was really better than expected for 2 reasons. First of all, Oculus did a good job of setting expectations that there's always going to be a few email that don't migrate for some kind of reason. And for us, we had a special situation. We had attempted ourselves, well, I say ourselves, we attempted ourselves through another partner about 3 or 4 years earlier to do a migration, and at the time the service wasn't that mature, and we actually stopped the migration in midstream. And so we knew we had some accounts that lived in both places, creating a bit of a mess, which was evidenced by the fact that we had a couple that didn't move. So at the end of the day, we had about 117 out of 4,262 that we needed to do some investigation and resolution on. But most of those were, frankly, because we had attempted this ourselves several years earlier and halted it in midstream. Next slide, please. So the project plan and durations, those are fairly accurate. I think for us, we broke it down And actually, we simplified the plan quite a bit and broke it down into 4 categories. We had what I call the kind of the preparation activities that we did through the end of January, which consisted of gathering, gathering our requirements and putting together statements of work and quotes. And then if you're an EDU, you've got a purchasing process that you have to follow, and that took for us a little bit of time to get through. And then the next phase for us were really consultant activities, which we did through the end of February. Part of that was the readiness audit that you see listed there on the slide. And then, of course, we had to do some configuring and staging of systems. And then we had the actual cutover, the migration activities that took place through mid-May. So we started the seeding process probably in March, and then we cut over in May over that weekend, basically uploading messages, calendars, etc. And then when we were done, we did a sign-off. Next slide. So I think the thing, we're looking at the project delivery and the quality. I think the thing that stands out for me, and that really with any large migration, there's always going to be unexpected hurdles. For us, we discovered during the cutover weekend that both public folders, which we wanted to keep, and having a GAL split between our 30,000 students and our faculty and employees turned out to be a little bit more challenging than expected. But what followed, and this is really where the rubber meets the road, what followed was literally a day and night research by the Oculus team and our staff to figure out how we were going to do this. And, I tend to be tough on vendors, but even I was surprised by the effort Oculus put into this, really to the point of exhaustion, to ensure that we got through that weekend and got the public folders moved and the global address list segmented by students and employees. So there's a lot of people out there that will tell you they can do this work, but for me, Oculus's willingness to work over that holiday weekend and day and night to solve this problem was impressive. Next slide, please. So let's look at the architectural diagram here and how we're configured. While Office 365 does provide inherent disaster recovery with all the data centers worldwide, when you look at this diagram, you can see none of that really would matter if your single point of failure was Active Directory authentication to the cloud. Since we're based in a hurricane-prone area, we found that our vulnerability was ADFS. And for us, the fix was really twofold. We added another ADFS in a different campus, which provided some geographic dispersion. And then, of course, we implemented DirSync, so we had those accounts and passwords synchronized in the cloud. So we really have twofold methods of recovery there in the event of a problem. Since Go Live, we've actually tested killing both of our ADFS instances and running the PowerShell commands to enable DirSync, essentially the cached sync passwords, and both worked very well and were very quick to implement. In fact, we're even thinking about, should we have a hurricane or should we have something threatening come up, whether or not we might want to go in and implement that even beforehand, because it really does work very well. Next slide, please. So outcomes, lessons learned. Well, first let me say all objectives were met. What worked well? For the most part, the migration went as planned. Account finalization worked as advertised and in the time frame that we had expected. Calendar and contact migrations worked with permissions intact, and that was very important for us. AutoDiscover worked for most of our users. I will tell you that if you're running Office 2010, there are some issues with how it does auto discovery, and you might think about making sure it's patched fully, or that your staff and faculty are on Office 2013, which for us worked a lot better. if you happen to have a campus agreement with Microsoft, and I'm not plugging this, but if you happen to have a campus agreement, you obviously have the ability to upgrade to the later version. And you know, for us, again, auto discover is really that's the the pucker moment, if you will. That's when you know this is going to work, when you change the MX record and auto discover sees that you're on the cloud and you're not going to have to touch thousands of workstations, and that worked brilliantly. It was very smooth, and we were very happy with that. Our mobile devices continued to work. There's a setting change that has to be done, but otherwise they've been working very well. In fact, I would say probably better than when we had it on-prem, because occasionally we had to stop and start certain services to keep our mobile devices working. Performance has been solid and reliable to date. I know in past years there have been some minor outages with Office 365. I think they're still within their service level. Since we've been live, we haven't had that, and we found it to be very dependable. One of the other lessons learned I would tell you is, if you're going to do this, make sure you're using the right dir sync. Azure Active Directory synchronization is the one that actually does the correct synchronization of accounts and passwords. So we were using FIM at the time, and that tool just didn't quite do it correctly, but we got that resolved. So anyway, I've been talking quite a while now. So to conclude my part of this and turn it over to Microsoft, since Go Live, we've actually got to a point where we're introducing our customers to the other suite of tools that we get with Office 365. So we not only solved our email problem, but we now have a lot more capabilities and tools than we ever had. We've already seen what I call our organic adoption of Skype for Business. We're seeing more requests for SharePoint. We had an on-prem SharePoint instance where we're now moving that to the cloud as well. And we've even considered things like using the online Office applications in the future rather than doing image upgrades. So we're really now fully embracing the technology, and we haven't been disappointed.
Alan, that's awesome to hear that your project went through successfully. I wanted to ask a quick question for those that are maybe where you were a few months ago. Is there anything they should do in hindsight, or anything they should prepare as they go into this project that you would have done differently, or any suggestions for how best to plan the project, or any prereqs or dependencies they should be thinking about?
Well, I think I've mentioned a few of them. One that I didn't really spend a lot of time on was, everybody's situation's a little different. You may not be going from Office or Exchange 2007. You may be going from something totally foreign to Microsoft suite of tools. Make sure that you build your statement of work so that you clearly articulate what it is you're going from and to, and what your expectations are for the project. Oftentimes that's the thing that we don't put enough investment into, is clearly spelling out our requirements. And I think that it really yields a lot of benefit if you take that extra time and clearly denote what it is you want and expect, and then run that through Oculus and make sure you guys are on the same page with that. So administratively, that is one thing that we did, and it really helped ensure success in the project. The other things I've kind of already mentioned: make sure you're using the right dir sync product. I would maybe advise you as well that if you're still using public folders and you want to continue using public folders, that while there is an import-export capability, you'll save yourself a great deal of time if you go ahead and look at what you currently have, and maybe there's things in there that are no longer necessary, and basically kind of clean that up a little bit. For us, we found that after we migrated, we had half as many public folders because we saw that many of our customers hadn't touched some of the data in half a dozen years. And so it was easy for us to say that's really not necessary anymore. That structure isn't being used. So do some of that housekeeping work. It'll save you a little bit of time.
Alan, I think that's helpful. There's a question that you may have already answered from a colleague that said, they're asking, did you do a staged or hybrid migration?
So I call it a, I think of the way I referred to it earlier was it was a live migration approach, as opposed to, we tried to do, the one that we attempted to do several years earlier was a staged migration. And that's the one that we stopped, and that did cause us some problems when we were ready to go forward several years later. The live migration is a way that you can actually precede all of those accounts and the data up until that point, until the point where you're ready to actually do the final cutover. And that's the way I would recommend, because your downtime is much less as a result. You're not copying up most of that mailbox. If that mailbox was copied up in the background weeks or months earlier.
Perfect. I'm going to queue up the Microsoft team with Dane Johnson, Cloud Technical Specialist from Microsoft. And I think the lead will be Tatenda Namu. I hope I got it better or more accurate this time, Tatenda. O365 Technical Specialist, both focused on the higher ed or education domain. Tatenda, over to you on this next segment.
Sure. Thank you very, very much. I guess I would like to congratulate Alan there on a successful transition to Office 365. And that's our mission here at Microsoft, to have our Office 365 offering here actually empower our customers and make a difference. So really want to congratulate Alan there. So today here I'm basically going to take some time to look at what we have here in our Office 365 offering for the education domain. So basically Microsoft here, we are offering a product here under Office 365 which is specifically designed for our educational crowd. So we're looking at empowering education through the delivery of Office 365 in so many ways. And with Office 365, it's basically a cloud service. It's software as a service that we've provisioned for our users that sign on to be able to get access to all our Office applications like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, OneNote, Microsoft Access, Skype for Business, directly from cloud access. So all you need is a browser, a web browser, to log into your portal and access those applications from any device. So from a desktop computer, from a mobile phone, or from a tablet. With Office 365 for education here, we have some great capabilities as well. For example, we have a click-to-run service where our users can easily deploy Office applications to desktop units basically by clicking an install button and pushing those applications out. We've also enabled a mass deployment tool with our click-to-run here through our Office deployment tool to click-to-run, where we can allow administrators to run a mass deploy from a central location of the same Office application. All the data in Office 365 is basically stored on the Office 365 cloud servers with Microsoft. And Microsoft here makes great strides to make sure that we maintain good data security and data integrity in our enterprise-grade deliverable with Office 365. We are also providing free upgrades to our educational sector for Office 365 as an included feature for the educational subscription. So I guess we can move on to the next slide here. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit here about some of the provisions that we actually are offering with our education deck here. So with Office 365 education, we are focusing most of our attention on some of the resources and benefits that will greatly augment educational institutions in their operations here. The very first feature here we'll look at here today is the Exchange Online service. This here is the back-end server that basically runs Outlook email for Office 365 clients, and it allows our users to use business class email through a rich, familiar Outlook experience you can access from your desktop or from a web browser using the Outlook web app. It allows a 50 gig mailbox per user, and users can send attachments up to 150 megs. That also comes with unlimited mail archiving and free Exchange Online protection for all cloud-hosted mailboxes. It also includes the ability to sync emails and calendars and contact information across devices in real time. So you have up-to-date data no matter what device is in your hand. Another great feature here we're including here with Exchange Online is, say, if a user loses a portable device that has very sensitive or important data, Office 365 allows admins to wipe data from that device remotely to prevent unauthorized access to that information. So really great service here that's coming in with Exchange Online. Another service that is available here in the DAC is Skype for Business. Skype for Business is an excellent platform for collaboration. It enables voice and video collaboration through instant messaging, voice calls, and video calls, and connects people virtually from anywhere, from any device as well. So users can share presence, instant messaging, audio calling, and we've integrated presence notification with other applications like our Outlook application. So if you're set to say you're set to available in an Outlook application, that same presence notification is also available in your Skype for Business as well. So users can see your presence there. The other great product as well here that's included in the Office 365 Education DAC here is SharePoint Online and OneDrive. With OneDrive for Business, it basically gives users 1 terabyte of personal cloud storage that can be accessed from anywhere. It allows our users to easily share documents with others inside and outside of the organization, and you can also control who can see and edit that data file. So users have permissions to set whether they want read-only or view-only files. With SharePoint here, we've basically customized SharePoint here within the Education deck to provide students and teachers a collaborative platform for things like projects, assignments, through sharing of related documents, notes, tasks, and conversations in a collaborative and shareable environment. SharePoint allows basically 10 gigs storage per Office 365 tenant, plus 500 megs per prescribed user, and additional storage as purchased. So for example, say we have 10,000 users, the base storage allocation will be approximately 5 terabytes based on the 10 gig plus the 500 megs times their 1,000 users. Another great tool here as well that's included in Office 365 is Yammer. Yammer is an excellent site that mimics social networking sites, but we've customized this to suit more the educational domain by providing a secure private social networking tool for schools, and it helps students and teachers basically connect with each other, share information, and organize around projects in order to work together collaboratively and effectively. The next feature here under our standard services is e-discovery search. Basically with e-discovery, Microsoft has enabled Office 365 subscribers to use e-discovery in Office 365 to search for content in Exchange Online mailboxes or SharePoint Online sites or both, basically to retain that data for future needs. Say, for example, if they have a legal consequence where they need to retrieve any of their Exchange information or SharePoint information, they can query that information using e-discovery. It's a great tool that we've included there as well. Office Online is one of the greatest collaborative tools that we've enabled as well for Office 365. So our users don't need to actually have the physical application running to access any of their web applications, like, for example, Word, Excel, PowerPoint. All you need is just a web browser. If you log into your Office 365 portal, you can make use of any one of those applications from your browser. That comes as well with Project Online, which is made available through your web browser portal here. And with Project Online, it's entirely separate service that offers a full portfolio in project management tools on the web. So it provides the Project Web app and other utilities, for example, like working on timesheets, working on multiple projects at the same time, and it balances a broad base of resource needs as well. On our advanced services here for Office 365 Education, we have great utilities with e-discovery, hold and export, as well as data loss prevention. Microsoft has enabled this in order to give our end users more of an upper hand on data recovery and data redundancy. So for example, with the Unified e-Discovery Center, you can search across SharePoint, Skype for Business, Exchange mailboxes, and that e-discovery utility basically integrates with advanced retention and archiving, enable in-placing legal hold on different cases that you can create within Office 365. This feature is basically made available by our Azure Rights Management add-on, which we've included within the Office 365 Education deck. A great feature here that we've integrated into the Exchange Online service is our DLP feature, our data loss prevention feature. Basically allows our systems administrators for Office 365 tenants to create policies through simple packages that can contain sets of data made up of different transport rules, actions, and exceptions that they can create within the Exchange Administration Center. These features here allow service departments to trigger certain protocols within email clients. So say, for example, if you want to set a policy where you don't want users to send out credit card information from their email client or social security numbers, you can enable all that through our DLP functionality. Pretty great resource there. We've also included great analytic tools like Power Pivot and Visio services. Power Pivot is an excellent analytic tool here for business intelligence that we've integrated within our Excel application. As well as our Visio services, we've allowed it to be a web-based platform that we can allow our users to actually share different Visio diagrams and Visio resources that they might be working on, say, on a particular project. The last feature here that we are going to showcase under advanced services is voicemail support. Basically with Office 365, we've enabled unified messaging, which makes it possible for our Exchange administrators to combine voice messaging and email messaging into one mailbox, so their users can actually listen to voicemail messages from their inbox using the Outlook voice access from any telephone. And this is a pretty great feature that we're supporting as well with Office 365 Education here. There are some additional services that can be included within Office 365, like, for example, the Rights Management Service. It's a great encryption service that we've enabled that allows administrators to restrict access to Office 365 documents and emails to specific recipients or specific people groups, and to prevent any external parties from viewing or editing those documents. RMS, or Rights Management Services, basically runs off of our Microsoft Azure Rights Management add-on. It basically enables that encryption, identity, and authorization policies that we've embedded for secure files and emailing. And this basically is enabled across multiple devices. So it runs on desktops, phones, tablets, and different PCs as well. With Office 365, if it's licensed through volume licensing, we do have an Office 365 Pro Plus product that comes for free for an entire organization. So say for an example, if a school licenses Office 365 through one of our licensing programs here, the Enrollment for Education Solution, they will get the entire Office 365 Pro Plus package for the entire students for free. But the only requirement with that is that they have to license all staff and faculty. And we'll look at the licensing bit here in the next segment here. So the last and final service here that we also provide as an additional service is full voice and ability to actually use PSTN calling, public switch telephone networks. With Office 365 and Skype for Business integration here, we are enabling our Skype for Business users to actually use PSTN calling from their Skype for Business tenant. So they can actually use it as an actual phone. Okay, I will go ahead here now and move on to some of the benefits here that are actually included within Office 365 for our education. The very first benefit here that I'd like to focus on is their mobility function. So users are basically able to sync their email, calendar, and contacts across different sites, across different devices. So this is supported for mobile phones like Windows phones, iPhones, Androids, and the Office Online application as well is embedded within the same mobility function. There's great reliability with Office 365 education deliverable here through an enterprise-grade service. We guarantee a service level agreement of 99.99% uptime throughout our service here, so really great uptime reliability there. Security, we do take that really seriously, and at a service level, Office 365 basically uses a defense in-depth approach to provide physical, logical, and data layers of security across different platforms. Privacy, we entrust your data with Office 365, and our users remain basically the sole owners of that data. So they retain the rights, the title, the interests of that data within Office 365. The great advantage here of Office 365 is some of its capabilities, especially the Active Directory integration here that Alan was talking about. It basically allows our users here to run a hybrid Active Directory environment through our Azure AD Connect, where they can basically synchronize their cloud-based Active Directory with an on-prem Active Directory. Okay. I will move on here now to the licensing component of Office 365 for education. So basically, Microsoft provides licensing for Office 365 education through two main platforms. Educational institutions can license their licensing here through subscription licensing or perpetual licensing. With subscription licensing, this basically gives them the right to use the products that they license plus any upgrades and downgrades over the license period. While with perpetual licensing, you basically license your institution or organization here for the entire term of that licensing term. So organizations and educational institutions under Office 365 education can use 5 different models of licensing to buy the Office 365 education product. The very first licensing program here that we really do push for is the Enrollment for Education solution. This here is a subscription-based model, so it's available by subscription. It has an agreement term of 1 or 3 years. It's available for higher education institutions and primary and secondary school institutions. It's licensed basically by qualification of institution size, where if an institution has either 1,000 plus full-time equivalent employees or students, they will qualify. Or if they have 5 plus full-time equivalent employees or students, they will qualify. Software assurance is included with that particular program, and software assurance is basically a comprehensive program that includes a unique set of technologies and services and rights to deploy and manage software across different Microsoft products efficiently. So with this particular program here, the Enrollment for Education Solution, as I had highlighted earlier on, it's an excellent platform that helps educational institutions actually save on costs, because if they license through this program right here, they get the student advantage. All they need to do is license their entire faculty and staff and employees, and then the entire student body will get the Office 365 Pro Plus for free. The next program here that's available for licensing is the School Enrollment Program. That's also a subscription-based program. It has an agreement term of 1 or 3 years. This year is only available for primary and secondary school institutions, and it's qualified based on an institution size of at least 250 users or more. Software assurance as well is included in this particular deliverable. Then another option that educational institutions have here is the Open License for Academic. The Open License for Academic is a perpetual license, so basically it doesn't expire. It has an agreement term here of 2 years. It's available for higher education institutions, for primary and secondary school institutions as well. It's qualified on a user size of at least 250 personal computers that are being licensed, and software assurance is not available with that program. The next program here that's available for licensing under the same Office 365 education here is the MPSA, or the Microsoft Products and Service Agreement. This particular program is basically recommended for academic institutions that want to buy cloud services or software without a requirement to buy licenses for the entire organization or for everyone in that organization. It's a perpetual licensing model as well. It doesn't have an agreement term. It's valid for higher education institutions, primary and secondary schools, and it's qualified on at least 250 personal computers being licensed. With this particular program here, software assurance is an added component that they can buy as an add-on. It's not included within that program. And the last and final licensing program here is the Select Plus for Academic. With the Select Plus for Academic, it's a perpetual program as well. It doesn't have a term requirement. It's available for both higher education institutions and primary and secondary schools. And it's also licensed on at least 250 personal computers being licensed, with software assurance being an added add-on as well for that particular program. So with our licensing here, we actually do have licensing specialists on site, so they can go more in-depth into some of the licensing programs that we do have there. Okay, so I think we can move on here.
Jacinto, that was awesome and very thorough. I want to immediately go to a couple of questions. There's a question from the University of Houston. Okay. Alan, I think this is for you, which is, are you using or planning to use the OneDrive for Business? Is that something you're going to do in the future? That's from Grace Davila and Saeed Fatu, I think from the same University of Houston shop, not too far away from your neck of the woods. Alan, any plans on OneDrive?
Yeah, that's a great question, because one of the projects that we're looking at right now is our employees have a home directory. We call it H Drive. You probably do too. A group directory, we call that G Drive. It's mapped at login. We're talking about reworking that so that we point our users to OneDrive for their home drive, which is now, I think, it's 1 terabyte per person. You know, I think we allocate something like 100 meg per person. So you can see the exponential jump in storage we get by making OneDrive our home drive for our customers, our employees. And And then, of course, for group, that could either be SharePoint or some other capability that's already in the cloud. So for us, we think that that is the strategy that we're looking at, the way that we're going to go. Of course, it brings up concerns around backup and recovery. And, you know, so backup and recovery, there's a couple of ways you can think about that. One is, you know, when you erase from cloud storage, the way you can get that back is through versioning. And if you read some of the Microsoft literature on that, there's a backup of the backup, and I think even when you erase the backup, there's another backup that's out there for something like 30 days or 90 days. There's also third-party vendors out there now that will copy your data to your shared space. And I don't know if Microsoft Rep talked about this, but so for us, we get 1 terabyte per employee, but we also get, as an institution, a certain amount of shared space, and it's a remarkable amount of shared space, and you can allocate that shared space to any of the online tools. And one of the things you can simply do is allocate some of that online space to your backup and recovery. So we're looking at third parties who do that so that we have a more traditional backup and recovery method than just versioning. But that was a great question, and that's how we're tackling it right now.
Alan, I'm going to fire another question at you, maybe for you to field first. Are you doing anything special on the AV and spam filtering side for O365?
No, we had...
That's from James Shan at Marymount, Manhattan.
So in our environment, when we had on-prem, we had a cluster of Barracudas that was doing spam filtering, and we were really concerned that when we took that out of our environment, when we went live, that the Microsoft spam filtering wouldn't be as efficient or as good, and that we would see a ton of new spam, which we really haven't seen. But if it makes you feel better, I think, if I recall right, our technical staff said we could have kept the Barracudas in place, but the Microsoft filtering was very much adequate.
Very good. Did you want to add anything to the AV spam filtering question?
Sure, yeah. So with spam filtering with Microsoft here, I think I would highlight that EOP program that we do have, especially for our Exchange Online. It basically provides that on the back end from anti-malware, anti-spam, antivirus as well. It includes features basically that safeguard whatever messaging policy that an academic institution can install or enable for their Office 365 tenants. So that's a great feature that we have included within our Office 365 package.
Thank you. We're almost at the tail end. I do want to cover the couple of pieces I covered before. If you really want to do this on your own, which makes a lot of sense, if you have the capability and the time frame, leverage Oculus or someone like Oculus that has done this before so that you can avoid problems or mitigate risk in the project. Or if you want to do it like Jacinto and Alan's shop, you can also delegate the project for unlimited mailboxes to the order of about $9,000 and change. I want to start to wrap. We're right at the top of the hour. Alan, I really want to appreciate the time that you took out of your schedule to share what you have done and Jacinto has been able to accomplish with this project. We really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Microsoft team, thank you for joining us as well. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having us.
And I'd like to also thank the institutions who've joined us from all over the United States and all over the world who've taken time out of their fall schedule to learn what Alan's team and St. Jacinto has accomplished with their Exchange to O365 successful migration. For those of you who are looking at what to do as next steps, there's the person that invited you to this party would be a good place to start to at least explore what your architecture or migration strategy ought to look like. You can also contact Paul as appropriate. This is the Oculus team from New Jersey, wishing you a great rest of the day, a great rest of the week, and signing off now. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you.